Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm back in the shack today to talk about the Dauphiné. It's finished today and what a race it was. I think we're still all kind of recovering from what we've seen this week. There was a lot of show, a lot of drama, a lot of crashes, shocks, surprises. There was everything that we could have expected for a race. In my opinion, the first 4 days were somewhat of an anti-climax, especially yesterday, but today it totally made up for it. It was an amazing stage, complete lack of control, everyone going wild in the Alps. It was totally worth it. It's a shame that we didn't get to see the stage from the beginning. In the well, I'll get to that. I'll get to that. Now, what has happened in this Dauphiné for me is that more questions were lifted than answered, so to say. There are more questions now unanswered. Firstly, which contenders are actually going to be at the tour with their maximum power? Because we had assumed that it was going to be a proper, Ineos Jumbo battle at the tour at least, mainly between Roglic and Bernal. Well, neither Roglic and Bernal finished the Dauphiné actually. So Roglic was supposed to come into this final stage with the yellow jersey, but he decided to not start the stage, even though he had very good chances of taking the overall. We don't know exactly why. He had a crash yesterday. We don't know the damage of that crash. For sure, there weren't any fractures. There was a lot of road rash and I imagine bruises. I imagine that Roglic didn't start exactly as a precaution, but I was a bit surprised because this is a World Tour race and a very important one, in fact, that he could have won if he kept on the race. I believe he could have won because yesterday, even after he crashed, he seemed as strong as always. Today we also had Nairo Quintana abandon. He said he had some issues in the knee that he got hit by a car around a month ago, and he seemed to be back at his best. Today he suffered, he cracked very early on, and it seemed like he was having some issues in the knee. So it's also necessary to see how he's going, if he's really recovered, and if it's gonna affect in any way the final step of the preparation for this tour. Uh, there was also Mikel Landa. At the time I speak, I still don't know if he finished the stage or not. There's a chance he could have finished, although he had cramps very early on, and I think everyone who sees this video will know how horrible cramps are if they've experienced it, so I don't think that he has finished the stage. However, Egan Bernal abandoned the race as well in stage 4. He didn't start. He quoted some back issues, or the team did. I'm not exactly sure who did. I don't think it's too much to be concerned about. However, having abandoned the race in such fashion isn't really a statement of confidence, and Ineos as well didn't really state much confidence in this race. Whilst riders like Castroviero, Kwiatkowski, Sivakov clearly look sharp, strong, and ready for the tour. The same can't be said with riders like Thomas, like I imagine Froome, and Bernal was he finished third on the first stage, and he was strong in the Tour de Land, so I think he has the form. I think it's nothing to worry about. He's just not going with the confidence that he had last year after winning Swiss. He's not going with that confidence over to the Tour. We also had Emmanuel Buchmann who crashed, and he doesn't have any fractures. Luckily, it seems like he's going to be able to be in the Tour. He tried to give a ride today or tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken. One of those 2 days, he's going to try to get back on the bike. If he does and doesn't feel any major issues, it's a little bit of a step back, but it's not going to prevent him from being there in the Tour very well. The same may not be the case with Kruijswijk. Kruijswijk was set to be in the Tour. He was here in the Dauphiné, riding well, gaining form. Also crashed yesterday in the descent of the Col du Planbois, and there was a lot of criticism between some of the riders in the race, including Dumoulin, over the descent. Extremely dangerous. Gravel pitches, lots of potholes. It didn't hand well. Several riders crashed, including Pinot. It wasn't really reported at the time, but Pinot did crash yesterday alongside Buchmann and Kruijswijk. Later in the stage, Roglic also crashed, and those two riders were the riders that finished first and second in the chasing group yesterday in the stage that was won by Lennart Kamna. Lennart Kamna was the rider. was actually one of the big surprises of the race. He's finished 6th today and 8th on the overall. So Bora really have a strong rider in here, caught from Sunweb, and he's really coming into form in time for the Tour. I believe he's going to be there. So he really showed his quality last season, and I really expect him to really race big this year. On Bora, I'm sure it's a team that is going to give him, I wouldn't say the freedom, but he has all the right tools to show the quality he has. In the first stage, we had a win by Van Aert. Massive form, beast performances in every single stage, including today, getting over the mountains in apparent ease. Easily going through riders like Port, Landa, Quintana, who some with issues, but some maybe not. Pierre Roland, several other riders that were there in the top 10 or whereabouts completely cracked today, whilst Van Aert not only didn't crack, he pushed on and he worked his ass off for Sepp Kuss, who eventually won the stage, even though he wasn't in the breakaway. Stage 2, we had a win by Roglic. It was somewhat of an expected stage, still impressive. It was a first duel between the climbers, and it was a good stage to see, well, to get some answers, I would say. But what happened in the next few days is that those answers somewhat stopped being answers because lots of crashes, lots of injuries have happened following in stage 3. It was a massive solo win by Formolo, and in the peloton there wasn't really anything to showcase for, just Bernal and Quintana losing some seconds. I believe there wasn't really anything else to take note in that stage. Stage 4 was yesterday. It's the stage where all the crashes happened. Lennart Kemna took it from the breakaway. Great performance, beating winners like Alaphilippe, Jack Haig. Very, very strong. In the peloton, there was a push by Bahrain. They had every tool to attack, and they seemed to be perfect for it. However, Landa didn't end up moving. I criticized Landa and Quintana a lot yesterday, and today they struggled. They really struggled. I believe none of them actually finished the stage, so I'll give an excuse to there. However, it's not really a motivating performance. Landa was there. Cramps were his obstacle. However, it's really unusual to see a big rider having cramps on that early on, especially as he was showing himself on a good day, clearly. Which takes us to today. Roglic didn't start the stage, so Pinot was the yellow jersey. However, he wasn't wearing it, and I think it was somewhat of a psychological move, trying to not look like a direct target to everyone, the rider to be targeted. I think it was a smart move. I think FDJ had the opportunity to take yellow, to be wearing yellow today, which would have been good for sponsors, but I think they had a smart strategy in taking Pinot in this way. There were some more riders that didn't finish the race, like Gregor Mulberger, who also got injured in the same crash as Bookman and Kreuzweig yesterday. Dan Martin and Tish Benoit didn't finish the race. I don't know exactly what went on with them. I know that Benoit crashed 2 weeks ago in Strade Bianche, and Dan Martin, I don't know. I think one of them was quoting back pain, perhaps Martin. However, it's unusual. It's unusual, firstly, to see so many riders complaining of back pain. I mean, I don't know if that has anything to do with the fact that there's a lot of rough racing already this early on to the new season. It may just be a coincidence. I don't know about that. So in this stage, there were attacks by Pinot, Landa, and if I'm not mistaken, Roman Bardet and Tadej Pogacar. In the first steep little climb of the day, they were all in front already, alongside stage winner Sepp Kuss, Tom Dumoulin, Wout van Aert, Chris Nylund, Alaphilippe, Sivakov, lots of big names. There was a lot of chasing in the peloton by eventual GC winner's team, Cannondale. Well, it's not Cannondale, EF. There was a lot of chasing by Cofidis and Arkea, if I'm not mistaken. Arkea weren't guessing that Quintana would later crack. Bargill took the front, took the lead as as Arkea's leader, so to say, still showcasing the colors of the team. He finished in the top 10, 9th if I'm not mistaken, so not a bad result. There were moves in the Rhum, in the Colombière, and then the race somewhat settled. Van Aert, Reichenbach, and David de la Cruz, who was the mountain classification winner, came back to the front group, and they were there, they worked. And then the final sequence of climbs was absolutely magnificent. We had Pogacar, Lopez, and Martinez attacking right in the bottom of the Côte de Mancy. Kuss went after them as well. Sivakov and Alaphilippe were in front. Sivakov crashed, came back to the front, hung on with the leaders, attacked plenty of times. All of the riders actually in front attacked plenty of times, including Kuss, who was caught, if I'm not mistaken, twice. But then in the bottom of the final climb to the Megav airport or aerodrome, Kuss attacked. He went solo. Martinez was there. He kept on pushing as Lopez cracked. Pogacar was there. Sivakov. And in the chasing group, Thibaut Pinot seemed to have cracked right in the bottom of that climb of the penultimate climb. I'm not sure of the name of that now. I don't remember. He seemed to have cracked completely, but he had some help from some of the French riders. Bardet, Barguil give a little bit of a help. Julien Alaphilippe himself did a little bit of a push in there. Movistar with Enric Mas also tried to bring it a little bit back into Valverde. The gap was 1 minute and 20 at some point, and Pinot didn't even seem in the fight for the GC anymore. It was between Martinez and Lopez. Lopez cracked. Pogacar was there. He stuck on with Martinez for the whole way. Pinot started to come back. He was struggling with the heat. I think that was apparent. He's not a rider that likes the heat, and although I didn't think that today was a especially hot day, it clearly took a toll on Pinot, but I think the pressure did most of it as well. Also, he was very exposed. He was alone in that front move early on into the race, and even though Hackenbach came back, it was evident in that long chase before the final climbs that he was positioned very in the front, right behind directly the riders that were chasing, and I think he just spent a little bit too much energy there to have the legs to answer the big moves that came right in the bottom of the final sequence of the climbs. Eventually, from that chasing group, Tom Dumoulin and Lennart Kamna, the stage winner of yesterday, exactly on the same finish. They attacked. They finished 5th and 6th. Great performances by Kamna, and Dumoulin showing promising form. He's on the rise. Good expectations for the Tour if Roglic and Kruijswijk manage to, well, if they have some relapse, a crash, something going on, Dumoulin, I believe he's there to fit the place. Has his George Bennett and Sepp Kuss, who I don't think will be thinking of the overall, but they are with such strong legs. It's scary. Both of them are riding like they've never ridden before. Yeah, I think even if they don't take Kruijswijk to the Tour, the team isn't going to be any depleted of power, depleted of workhorses, because also Robert Hezing, Wout van Aert, Tony Martin, and Mike Tuddis, and I think are the other riders. They're going to be there, and it's going to be smashing by Jumbo nonetheless. I think this race won't take much confidence from them. Kruijswijk's blow isn't really good news for them, but I think Roglic will be good. Dumoulin will be good. Bennett and Kuss and Van Aert looking superb. Yeah, in this stage we had also Guillaume Martin finish with Pinot. Romain Bardet looking very, very sharp. He was aggressive early in the day. He attacked there a lot of times in the final climb. I liked seeing him. The day suited him a little bit more. It was a very explosive, aggressive, unexpected race. Bardet thrives in that kind of race situation, and I really loved seeing him. He finished 6th on the overall. The big surprise, however, was Daniel Martinez. He took the overall after that attack in the final sequence of climbs. He was there all along. He never lost time in the previous days, and he was there in the overall 5th, 6th, if I'm not mistaken. And he just did brilliant, and he had 5 riders in here that could contest for the GC. Martinez was the only one of them who looked on top form, and he's absolutely beasted this race. Big surprise, big performance. Is he a candidate for the Tour? Well, for the win, no. However, for a top 5, I think we can consider him. I mean, I can't see, and I don't recall Daniel Martinez's Grand Tour record so far, but if he's not debuting, I believe he's only done maybe once or twice. I don't recall ever seeing him there in the fight for the overall. However, him in the Guita, with also Rigoberto Urán in there, they can form a little bit of a trident. I think they can do really well in the Tour. All of them Colombians, also great friendship and great communication skills between the team, I believe. For sure, Martinez can be a top 5 contender because, well, he eluded all the crashes. He looked in form and he looked really strong and also tactically astute. If he has the consistency for the Tour, we're yet to see, but if he does, without a doubt, I wouldn't be surprised to see him there in the top 10 and perhaps fighting for something a little bit better than a top 10. Thibaut Pinot finished second in the overall, 29 seconds away, and Guillaume Martin finished third, still a very strong race. He seemed in difficulties yesterday, cracking in Bizan, and today he seemed in difficulties once again. He was dropped a couple times in those final climbs, but he hung on. He finished third. In the beginning of the race, I was somewhat expecting him to attack, but then I looked in the prism of Martin is still a relatively young rider. They're fighting for the top spots. He's been evolving constantly throughout his career, slowly but surely. He had an opportunity, and he started today in third place in the overall, if I'm not mistaken, third or second, considering Roglic's situation. And he managed to finish on the podium, which not only for Cofidis is a great result, for himself it's a great result, and he's also a top 10 contender for the Tour. He struggles in the time trials, but in the mountains he's clearly got the legs to keep up with the big guys, and I think he's got some consistency as well. Pogacar, rising form. Lopez, I would say the same. Lopez was a little bit too aggressive today, and I think he paid for it, but he's got the form. I don't think he's doubting of that. Perhaps a little bit below some of the other contenders, but he's coming in slowly as well. He's been evolving in Occitanie, and then Ventoux, he was slowly coming up, and here in the Dauphiné he showed himself well. Romain Bardet finished sixth, another good result by him, and perhaps motivating as well. He spent some of this Dauphiné riding in the wheels of the strongest climber, so I hope he gets some motivation. Perhaps, I don't wish him to be fighting for the GC because it may be a disappointment for him. But at the same time, I would love to see him fight for the GC and finish there on the top 5. It's still a dream of mine. He's done it in the past, of course, and he's a rider that I love. And yeah, I would love to see him perform at his best once again. Tom Dumoulin finished 7th, as I've mentioned. Leonard Kamna 8th, Warren Barguil 9th, and Sepp Kuss still managed to finish 10th on the overall, despite spending the whole tour working for Roglic. He had the freedom in this last stage, and he took it in the best way possible. The same way as Sivakov did for Bernal. He finished 11th in the overall. Valverde 12th. He managed to still rise up a little bit on the overall, although 8 minutes away. And Sebastian Reichenbach finished 13th, 9 minutes. Some other names in there. I don't have yet the names that finished below those in the GC. It was a great race. It was somewhat split between controlled racing by Ineos and Jumbo in the beginning, and this wild finish once those two teams weren't fighting for the overall anymore. Honestly, I would hope that we'd see some racing like this at the Tour. However, I think that's too much to ask. It's a stage too big. There's lots of expectations, lots of ambitions, and riders like Martin, Martinez, if they find themselves in the top 5, they won't be risking that top 5 place for a win. And the same I would probably say for someone like Pogacar, Lopez. I mean, they are capable of attacking, they are aggressive riders, but there's a lot of prestige in the top 5, especially in the podium. May lead to some blockages, and most importantly, there are bigger teams in the Tour, and I believe that everyone will be more prepared, everyone will be more sharp, in form. This race was still a preparation, the final step of the preparation for pretty much all, maybe 100% of the Tour candidates. It was a great race. The Dauphiné usually is. The last stage of the Dauphiné has the reputation of being very, very aggressive and spectacular, and today was absolutely that. If there were any day of the season where I would pay to see the whole stage, it would be today, no doubt. And I know there's still a lot of the calendar to go, but I don't think we'll get any better than today, honestly. Today was absolutely a brilliant stage. It was a good race. There's some conclusions that we've taken out from this race. There's some more questions as to how the main favorites for the Tour will actually be in the Tour. It's going to be interesting to see. The previews that I'm going to post in the coming week or two, in the days previous to the Tour, are going to have that taken into account. There's a lot of questions still unanswered regarding that, and especially the health of some of the main riders. There's a lot of in cognates. There's a lot of variables, so everything must be taken into account. This was the final race before the Tour for those big riders. Now, in terms of videos, I'll be back maybe this Tuesday after the Giro dell'Emilia. Not sure about that though. If I don't, however, I will be back after the Bretagne Classic. And in the meantime, stay tuned for the channel. You know, subscribe. There's a lot of content coming. I'm not sure if I'm going to put it out this week, but geography related, I have lots of stuff planned, lots of stuff ready to put out. I've also got some videos prepared for before the Tour de France. If you're still watching the video at this point, good for you. You get this sneak peek. I'm going to be making a video on where the Tour de France contenders have been training before the race, including training camps, races, their full preparation for the race. And I'm going to be making another video on how to draw a Tour de France, how to design a race. That is going to be very interesting. Subject that I like, and I don't think I've ever seen a video on YouTube regarding it. So if you made it this far, thank you so much. Leave a like and subscribe to support the channel. I would love it, and I'll see you in the next one.